Thank you so much. Also a privilege, and yeah, I'm well aware that we are all very tired, and it's very difficult to follow 3 days of intense and very enriching, very insightful talks, especially today, especially this afternoon. So yeah, it's incredibly. I'm honored, but it's also a responsibility. I will keep it brief. So as Elisabeth was saying, I'm currently in the Netherlands. I'm working at Utrecht University. I'm part of a large project called Pressing Matter, which looks at colonial heritage in Dutch museums. We're a very large team of researchers looking into different aspects of this issue. I myself work on religion and the activities or the results of the activities of Dutch missionaries in colonial settings. And my connection to this project, Transmat, goes back to the first conference, I believe, maybe the first conference at the National Museum of Ethnology in Lisbon 2 years ago. And I've been very lucky to have established an intellectual exchange with the team and with Elisabeth in particular. So I would like to just stress my thanks to Elisabeth and to her ability, incredible ability to establish dialogues between people and institutions. So I'm going to be very brief and just go through some of my notes. So this conference has been extraordinary in its diversity. I'm sure you've all noticed, gathering an impressive array of scholars and museum professionals working from or in countries like Portugal, Ecuador, Brazil, Zimbabwe, Uganda, the Netherlands, Egypt, Catalonia, the UK, South Africa, and so on. So the breadth of case studies presented also highlights the global reach of the call to critically think about how we deal with the past, in particular the colonial past or the colonial pasts, and their different impacts in today's societies and institutions. So we've also heard about Marajoara and Nubian ceramics in archaeology museums in different countries. We've heard about Ngonso from Cameroon, still in Berlin. We heard autoethnographic curatorial reflections in Zimbabwe and engagement with communities and collaborative projects in Quito, just to name a few. So I think this speaks also to the appeal of the concept note of this conference, and this is also very clear in the responses that we've heard in the past 3 days. And the appeal has to do with this idea of embracing transdisciplinarity in our methodologies. And again, this also helps to explain the diversity of the presentations. So we've heard in the past 3 days and seen participants try to engage with transdisciplinarity, showing how it can open spaces for critical questioning and for creative tensions, for rethinking or questioning the museum as an authoritative institution that can be perhaps transformed into a more dialogical one. And this is without losing sight of what Professor Marilia also mentioned, that dialogical spaces are not necessarily peaceful or quiet spaces. They can be spaces of discomfort and conflict, and this is a good place to think and enact change. So with also this proposal to embrace transdisciplinarity, we've had many reflections on the histories of disciplines like anthropology with its sub-traditions and archaeology, history, art history, history of science, and how they relate to the histories of museums and the histories of imperial and national formations. So it has been incredibly enriching to hear all these different conversations happening in one space. We've also heard a lot about collaboration and different modes of collaboration, and we've also heard that collaboration is not new in the first keynote of Mark Turner. So how can we take inspiration from this insight into our research about how local agents have influenced historically and have shaped what we find in the museum today? This does not mean that we should not bear in mind or continue or in any way avoid the issue of colonial violence and the responsibility that comes with that acknowledgement. But again, the question is modes of collaboration and understanding how these modes happened in the past and then who takes the credit. So this is also one aspect that stayed with me. We heard about the role of curators, how it is changing, and museum professionals as caretakers of collections and mostly people, as custodians of relationships. We have heard a lot about restitution and access to justice. We've heard about fears that institutions sometimes feel, or staff in institutions sometimes feel. But I think we've heard there seems to be a growing consensus, at least in this room, about restitution being not an event but a process, not an end in itself, but maybe a beginning or a beginning of something new. So our discussions consistently brought us back to this issue of restitution, and it seems indeed that we should not avoid it. And perhaps it's productive to think of it as a long-term process that requires, of course, accountability and justice and the building of relationships rather than the mere act of returning particular or singular objects. So how exactly should the museum confront and disrupt colonial narratives and power imbalances? Is an aspect that does not seem to generate or to have an abstract formulaic answer. And this brings me to two things. On the one hand, this has to do with what Siraj Rasool also mentioned in his very insightful talk yesterday about this plurality of colonialisms and plurality of disciplines. This does not mean, of course, that we don't share a common ground in terms of the acknowledgement of coloniality, but it means that we may perhaps answering this question means that we should pay attention to the specificities of imperial and colonial formations, institutional formations, and disciplines. And in this case, I think the work of of critically addressing colonial collections, as far as I can see, we have witnessed some kind of shift from what used to be considered, what we were used to seeing as ethnographic collections or archaeological collections in the museums, to see them as traces of colonialism. And I've been thinking about this shift a lot, and I don't think it's a recent shift, or maybe it's not even a shift, and collections have always been both. It's the acknowledgement or the public acknowledgement of that idea that the ethnographic, or the ethno, as Siraj Rasool has mentioned critically, has for a long time been in a very discomfortable overlap with the colonial, and anthropology as a discipline has some decades of critical engagement with this issue. But indeed, there's both a misunderstanding, but again, also a necessary critical understanding of what the ethnographic object is. And it has been a trace of colonialism since perhaps the beginning. And the question that I maybe would like to raise is, can the ethnographic become a perspective on the colonial or not? So this is one of the aspects about how a museum should deal with this. The other aspect that I would like to highlight is this idea that was also mentioned by Mark Turner of the emancipated spectator, this Jacques Rancière idea. And my thoughts are how much pedagogy is needed for this. How, I think Mark Turner phrased, how do we get there to the emancipated spectator? I'm not sure we have a common understanding of what that means. So how far should the museum discourse go? What are the risks of this? How much is too much room for interpretation? What to display, what not to display? We have also heard a lot of discussions about this. So there is messiness, there is ambiguity, there are many risks, there are tensions, entanglements between, or need to reconcile, or difficult conversations and tensions between thinking about entanglements without undermining restitution, tokenism versus change and genuine change and justice versus political instrumentalizations of these topics. So we've also heard a lot about these tensions, these discomforts, the risks, and the mistakes, as Miriam said in her first talk. So we should maybe talk as well about mistakes, but as we heard from her in the beginning, we can also learn a lot from that conversation. And I would leave it at that. Okay. Thank you so much for your attention.